Thank you for joining us once again here on Unmasking the Man, right from Hope Channel. This is a program that honestly is such a resource, if you ask me, because these two gentlemen next to me have been sharing experiences that are profound in nature, experiences that I think I haven't seen documented, anywhere. And Levi and Cassis, let me call you by your first names. You have been such an inspiration to me, let me say, and I'm sure to many who are watching and listening to us. We are here today to actually continue a conversation that we had last time, because we felt that there was so much to share on this particular subject, and this is on the issue of fatherhood, redefining it, so to speak. We looked at so many things in the previous episode on fatherhood, and you both shared your journeys as fathers. And I remember, Levi, you were very, what is the right word? But for lack of a better word, you were very, what is this word I'm looking for? Okay, it has gone, but it's all right. In a nutshell, I loved your energy, even when describing things that perhaps one would have thought they would have been the beginning of your breakdown.
As he was candid.
Candid.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
And describing your relationship with your father, for instance, even the moments that were not so, appealing, and yet you were able to draw lessons from those not very pleasant, memories. I want us to begin from somewhere else, and we'll come back to all those experiences. And this is in response to the fact that we have had fathers, people who have sired kids, and yet are running away for some reason from the responsibility of becoming responsible fathers. What on earth would make a person run away from such a noble responsibility, Pastor Cassis?
Wow, that's a hard one. But there are many factors that will make a person run away. For example, if your teenage boy came home and announced that he is expecting a child tomorrow from the neighbor's daughter, and then as a father or parents, you say, you are on your own, that's your business, bad behavior, we warned you about this, make sure, do you know how much Pampers costs? Do you know the cost of soap? Do you know the cost of... You put fear in the boy. What do you expect him to do? To save himself? He will sell a goat and flee to another uncle in the next city. Not because he does not want to see his child that will be born, but because of what parents have done in the process. That's number one. Number two, people run away probably from a bad spouse. Like now, the father has children, but the mother of the children either demeans the man because maybe he has a small income or he has no job. And so he's constantly reminded that he's a failure. And so as the person is almost coming to a mental breakdown, he starts discovering that when I'm away from that house, I seem to be alive. But when I go back to that house, it's like the death of me begins. And so the person runs for their sanity. So there are many factors why they are deadbeat fathers. While it may be easy to say, oh, the man is irresponsible, it is good to go to the root of what triggered the irresponsibility. It's possible also the person was brought up the wrong way.
Yeah.
Now, if the person was brought up the wrong way, we also want to highlight that whoever picked him as a husband also had poor choices. So that person does not have the moral ground to attack and say that you are brought up the wrong way because you chose the person who was brought up the wrong way. So I want to say that while we have deadbeat fathers, it's not enough to lynch them in public. Each case must be treated differently.
You agree?
I agree entirely. There's also, of course, the fear of fatherhood. It can be a very debilitating fear. I think, especially for young fathers, we keep on telling young men the point of intercourse is easy, the consequences are not. And this again leads us to why we need to grab them early, why we have to talk to men, and why even men who have had children early in life and have had to deal, that we have those men who have gotten married later, but then they have this child out, where we come from, they call them outgrowers. And they have managed to, tell the family about it, and those children maybe have become a part even of their family. Those men need to speak out. I'll tell you, in my home, surprisingly, I met one of my stepbrothers when I was 16. And it's not like my father introduced us. I was in the village, a cousin of mine, one of those cousins, we like to call, with a...
They talk too much.
They talk too much. Said, hey, that's your bro.
And they say, what do you mean?
The guy, I was like, what bro? They're like, I don't know that's your father, And sure enough, I look at the guy, his voice and my dad's voice are exactly the same. The mannerisms, what? So I went and asked my mother, and she was aware.
Oh,
She was aware.
What an introduction.
Yeah. She was aware that the guy existed. Apparently, he had been paid for school fees. No one had ever told us, of such a happening. Again, this speaks to why men need to come out and speak, because these things happen a lot, especially in our African setting. The average home has got an issue with 2 or 3 or 4 brothers and sisters out there. And many times those things, as Pastor was saying before the show started, that we don't find out until you are in a casket, you cannot talk to anyone, and people are around you saying, so and so.
These are the children of so and so.
These are the children of
the whole village.
Too many of us have official children
Official.
and non-official children wandering, roaming the streets, waiting for the day they'll come in through a lawsuit or something. So those issues also end up, as they go, they cascade. As we are, so will the next generation be. If we hide these things, they will hide these things as well. It will become like a norm.
That's true.
Like a norm to do so.
Yeah. And Levi, there's the issue of, much as we are talking about those who are physically and emotionally disconnected as fathers, there are those who are physically present. They are there. You can see them every day. But emotionally, they are not there.
Yeah. Again, that's a lot of, it also speaks to some of the things he may also be alluding to. For some fathers, they'll walk out. For some, they'll stay in, but walk out spiritually.
Emotionally too.
So they're not there. They have decided they won't just engage with their children, with their spouses, with anyone. And those are signs, and those are the things now why you hear nowadays a lot of talk about mental health. Which again, churches should now embrace. As for many of us growing up, the aspect of mental health was not there much. I think mental health issues were confused with the demonic activity. So we may want to cast out demons and not be very successful in doing so when we are really dealing with issues to do with the mental health of an individual. Right. So it behooves now our spiritual leaders to find a balance to where they can see between the two, and also try and reach out to especially these men. And men have to speak to men with candor, very clearly. When we go for those men's meetings, men's breakfasts, let's not camouflage things there.
Yeah.
Let's not park our vehicles there and talk about, our investment plans, and how we are doing well, and brother, keep on in the Lord, and just walk in His might, and talk about those things and not actually go under the surface and talk about the real issues. And
for sure, there are those men who innocently believe that they are doing so much for their families as fathers, as husbands, and that they are not receiving, there's no reciprocation of what they feel they are putting in. And that is frustrating most of them. How can we help ourselves as men to get to a level where we are soberly engaging and devoid of all these emotional baggage that can come in relationships? Because sometimes it's just something that is between you and your wife, but now it spirals such a way that now everyone is involved. Your kids are, thrown into the whole mess. So how do we make sure, Pastor, that we conduct ourselves, or perhaps you know, we're in a position where our actions, our dissatisfaction, if at all, does not really affect the lives of the children that call us father, dad, because we have seen a lot of children as a result of that kind of confusion within the house. Kids are the most affected.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I look at it in two ways. That first of all, the church departments need to work. As I move around, sometimes in my pastoral work, I've found so many churches have very good departments, but they are not functioning. Apart from the breakfast that Conness has mentioned, they come for breakfast, but it's Adventist men breakfast, but they don't deal with men issues.
They deal with the breakfast.
Yeah, it's family life Sabbath. And they probably get a comedian or somebody who run around, say things, and then that's it. But we are not addressing the issues that people are going through, either because we are afraid or either because we don't take our assignment seriously. I think churches need to wake up and say that if you are, let's say, in charge of Adventist men or family life ministries, what are your objectives? What are the things you are supposed to achieve to help the boys become men, to help the parents become better parents, that kind of thing, so that you try to achieve that in a year. And I think in the process also, men need to be told that there is a certain way in which women behave because they are women.
Thank you.
So that you don't expect a woman to behave like a fellow man, because fellow men understand each other somehow. So women, if they are not understood, a man will run. And when you run and you get another one, you'll also have to run from that one.
The other one.
Yeah. So if men understand women, and this can best be told in men's circles, then when you live with a woman, then you live with wisdom, knowing that I'm living with a woman, and what I've learned from my fellow men and others is that women are like this, and that seasonally they can get mad. There are certain seasons of the month where they don't operate normally. If men tell themselves that way, then they start, you develop ability to persevere. But somebody also needs to visit the women. Are we together? And tell them, hey, these men were designed with a fragile ego. And if you don't handle them well, you will not only suffer, you can handle the suffering because you are an adult woman, but there are children who are your children who will also become victims in the process. And so it's like we are putting responsibility on the adults in that family circle to behave properly.
Yeah. Ultimately, Pastor, we want to improve our relationship with each other in the home setting. And, the children, like we've said numerous times, are the center of all these things. Levi, I just want to find from you, how has been your experience in terms of trying to create that emotional connection? Because as fathers, sometimes it's easier for us to, provide, material things and do everything, ticking the box. I've taken you to school. I pay your school fees when you seek, all those things that you do as a responsibility might be confused as, being a very caring father. But there's more to it, isn't there?
Yeah, I think the easiest way to create that emotional connection is to actively connect with your child. And when I say actively connect, I mean like, okay, there are those things you talk about. You can talk about, all of us are okay. We're talking about exams, studies, and all that. But we need to get to a point where we get to know our child, because every child is growing. Each of them is having a different worldview. Each of them is becoming a person in their own right. So, for example, if you are, like the other day, I was driving with my daughter to Kajiado. And on the drive there, I said, oh, so she was telling me about some new music she has heard. And I said, oh, get it on YouTube. Let's listen to it. So we listen. We listen to the lyrics. We listen to the to the sound. I give advice without condemnation. I give thought. I tell her about the music of our days. You know, we have a bond that I cannot say I could have gotten from my father. I remember one time I was watching a movie personally, and this movie was called Passenger 57, a Wesley Snipes movie. You know Wesley Snipes?
Yes.
Right? Yeah, where he beats people. There's a hijacking going on, and he chapas some guys, and he gets the plane back.
Yeah.
Yeah, for those who don't understand, chapa is he beats. But my dad walked in while I was watching the movie, and he said, "What is that you're watching?" So I explained. I said, "Dad, it's a movie. It's about hijackers." So he looks at me. He said, "So you want to be a hijacker now?"
There you go.
You see,
You're like, where is this coming from?
you see, you cannot connect. You see, my child who's in class 3, I drive her to school every morning, including this morning. But anyway, today there was an issue, so we're not able to go. But he tells me stories. I'll ask her, so how was school? How did you find the teachers? You get a perspective from them. What do you think about this subject? What do you think? Those are things every parent can do. It takes listening. And I always challenge the fathers, it's this way. Imagine when you are dating your wife. Yeah? When you are dating her. See, you sat down with her and you wanted to know everything about her.
Yeah.
You wanted to know what she likes, what she doesn't like, what she eats, where she goes, blah, blah, blah. That's the same story with your child. Only that you're not dating them, you're creating a relationship. You're getting to know them. The art of getting to know someone has never changed. Whether it is your child, whether it's me and you, whether it's me and any person we meet out there, the concept is the same. The only difference is parenting takes a certain role that some people imagine. You're up here, your child is down there. You don't get to ask some things.
And the kids today,
You
are
only get to
something
give
else.
direction. And you'll be shocked. When you start doing that, children will teach you even.
Yeah. Kids today are something else.
And you have to be open.
Yeah. And they will ask you questions.
They will ask you questions.
You
that-
think in hindsight, at that age, I wouldn't have
Your
dared.
14-year-old son may ask you something, you're like, hey, yeah, anyway, that's an interesting concept that I'm getting there, and that's the only way we get to actually bond and connect. And if we do that, guess what happens? They will even tell us about the things they would not ordinarily have told a parent. How beautiful it would be if your son can come and tell you, Dad, I'm really having an issue with girls. And you are the first friend, the first point of call to give guidance to that issue. If your daughter can come and tell you,
And
"There's
not
this
some
boy,"
peer.
and not some peer, that there's this boy who has looked at me this way and he has told me you're so good looking and you have excellent legs. And you as a father, you are now the one to give. You're like, yeah, I know. I'm the one, those legs are from our home.
Yeah. I hear you. Little.
How beautiful it would be,
Yeah,
as opposed to you getting the end result, of
When
something that
it's
happened.
too late.
When it's too late.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, for someone for a father who is listening to this conversation today, and he yearns for that reconnection, with his son, with his daughter. What are some of the practical steps, Pastor Kesis, that he can be able to, take towards that healing and reconnection journey?
One thing is spend time with your children, not for any reason, but because you are just there. Play with them. That one, in the heat of playing, spending time, you can decide to take them out to eat, to shop. You can travel to see a place. In the process of being with them, when the frequency increases, not once a year, when the frequency increases, they open up. But when you do it once a year, there's this stiffness. It's like, it's that moment of the year now where the family is going to the coast. So everyone is quiet, packed their bags, waiting for fun at the end of the trip. But when you make it frequent so that they look forward, to talking and what have you. I bought a phone in my house so that when my children are home, they can call me anytime. It's not a smartphone, not because I can't afford a smartphone, but it was intentional that it's not a smartphone, so that they can call me and we call each other for no reason. And that increases, connectivity, because relationships are made of communication. If you are communicating with your children on a need-to-know basis, then you are just like government. You and government are the same, and the members of the public. But when you are communicating even mundane things, you are talking about anything and everything, you get closer to your child. So I will challenge fathers out there that let's increase communication with our children, the frequency of communication, for no reason at all. Let's not just follow what our fathers did, where the father was such a stranger that when father comes home and we were in the sitting room, we scatter. Because we are not sure what he is up to.
You don't know
we
him.
we could easily offend him.
You're tense.
Yeah, there's tension. That should, times have changed. That formula no longer works. You need to be close to your children, or else you will receive news at the end of the process when you should have been part of the process. Yeah.
Wow.
And you humanize yourself as you do that.
Wow.
Like, tell stories. Tell your child, you didn't do so well in chemistry. Alafu, this is what you did later. Don't be what Pastor Kesis was saying. Don't be that guy who is, you are number one. We know you are not, you are your classmates.
Because your child becomes embarrassed when they fail. Yet you are a good example of failure. And they just need an example that you can actually fail and make it, And you are the best example of somebody who failed. And you are denying your child that example and tell them, this is what you got in chemistry. I got worse than this.
And look at me now.
Yeah, look at me now. It gives them hope.
Yes. Wow.
But where you say, no, chemistry I used to pass. One day they will bump into your papers in the house.
I'm telling you. And then also, don't be afraid of telling children that they can do better than you.
Okay.
And it's okay.
Wow. We are coming to an end. Again, we are coming to an end. But just briefly, how do we attain work-life balance as fathers, as men? I mean, there are a lot of responsibilities and life in itself is just, a huge responsibility, so to speak, in this part of the world. So how do you personally attain or achieve or work towards striking a balance, work-life balance, so that you're also not emotionally, drained in the process of trying to do your best as a father?
Yeah, somebody said one time at a funeral, it's not the years of your life, it's a life in your years. It's the same thing. It's not the time. It's not, did you spend 4 hours? It's the what in the time. It could be a TV program you watched with your son this week, and that could make a very big difference in terms of your bonding. It could be a walk. It could be, a talk for 20 minutes. It could be a phone call, as he said.
Yeah.
It's just being present and putting in the quality in the time. There are times, there will be long times, there are holidays where you can have time. There are times, we all know, sometimes we are busy. I mean, days are going by, you're doing this, you're doing that, your children are also in school, homework, blah, blah, blah. You hardly have a good conversation maybe once in 3 days. But when you do have a conversation, make it worthwhile. Make it memorable, And if you do that, it becomes easier even later on when you have a lot of time together to sit. Because even in the small times, you're actually connecting. Sometimes some people, in the small times, they're not connecting so much. So sometimes they have a whole day with the kids and the child just spends the time holed up in their bedroom, or they want to go and visit their cousins because they don't even want to be around you. Because even when they're around you, even for a short drive to school, you're not even an interesting guy. you know.
They would rather take a cab.
Yeah. Once you have asked, oh, what does the school need? You know those things.
That's
They say,
it.
the government questions.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
you
it.
need a new sweater. Oh, nee. Once you've asked those ones, you're done. Your fatherhood story is you're closed for the day. So you have to put in the effort to make the times worthwhile.
Wow. As we finish, Pastor, your last words, and perhaps speak also to your experience in terms of some of the lessons you've drawn from, specifically from your children as a father, that have impacted even your ministry as a pastor and your personal growth.
Yeah, what I've learned as a father is that it's good you don't treat your work and family as different. Combine them together so that family is part of your daily schedule.
I hear it the other way,
Yeah.
more often than not.
Well, it's one thing. So that when I'm planning my work, I'm also planning for my family. That's the reason I could not show up someday when you needed me at the studio. I didn't show up because I had some business to take care with the children, you know, so that it is part of the plan. I put it in the Google Calendar, you know. You schedule it and say this time, like now all the school holidays for the children are in my Google Calendar. So when you call me that on such a day, are you available? I look at it, it says kids on holiday. I say, no, I'll be very busy. Yeah, because many sinners out here, when you tell them I will be spending time with my family, they say, you'll be with the family, you come. Yeah.
You're free.
They treat being with the family as being idle.
Yeah.
So those kind of people, don't tell them that. Just tell them you are busy and it's enough. Something else I've learned is you can even call your children by nicknames so that you know, officialdom is gone. It's like, you know, in this setting, when we start calling each other Mr. Justice, you know, it changes.
Yeah.
It's different when I call you Justice and when I call you Mr. Justice, you know, that kind of thing. Now, if you have a family where you must Mr. your father, you know, it's easier to call him Dad, and Dad must also, you know, so that it breaks down that wall, the children come closer. So what I've learned from ministry is that plan for your family and be very close to your children. Try to break all officialdom between you and your children. Thank you so much.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. I think that's a perfect place to end this conversation, lest we find ourselves in another part 3. No, not today. Thank you so much, Levi.
Thank you.
Pastor Kesis, asante sana.
Thank you.
All right. So I hope this conversation has really been of help to you. And as you continue listening and watching throughout this entire season of Unmasking the Man, it's my prayer that God will indeed open you up to these realities that are being espoused here, and that you can be able to pick 1 or 2 lessons that would really become valuable in your journey as a father. Thank you so much for watching. See you again next time. My name is Justus. God bless you.